beautiful souls, it's Tad here again today with another video in our Pluto series, and today we're going to be talking about Pluto in the 12th house. So I've made a Pluto introduction video. I highly recommend that you check out that video first, so I'll post a link to that up above in the description box below so you can kind of get an idea about how I interpret Pluto, both the darkness and the lightness of Pluto as well, and then come back and watch this video. Also, we currently have an online astrology platform where it's like we currently have an online astrology hub where you can connect with me and other astrology enthusiasts out there. The platform is called Astrology for the Uranian Souls. I'll provide a link to that platform as well in the description box below, and you can join us. So if you have Pluto in the 12th house, here we are putting a planet of deepest psychological transformation into the house of the womb, of the timelessness, the space between life and rebirth. It's not even death, it's after death. It's between. It's that period. This is death, this is birth. It's that space between. And what is that space between? That empty space is this place of timelessness. It is an ability to feel and know and live with the deepest parts of you. If you have Pluto in the 12th house, in a sense where you are connected to everything, especially connection to the source. So if you think about the 12th house being the womb right before you were born, that is your source. You know, your mother's womb is your source. The source of all of us is the mother, the divine mother. So there's a deep, intense experience in your life that's going to push you in order to connect with the ultimate source of creation. But of course, this is not an easy journey to go down, because to really feel that connectedness to everything and to the source, you have to let go of a lot of the things you identify yourself with, and you have to be nothing. You have to be the no thing. You have to surrender to every single experience that comes into your life. And Pluto does not like that. Pluto is a controlling planet. And so Pluto doesn't really like to just surrender and see how things go. But the 12th house is a Piscean house. And, you know, this house just goes with the flow. Your early childhood life may have been filled with a struggle to connect very deeply and long term with a lot of the people in your childhood, as well as intimate relationships, because you're here, your soul is here to connect, to not just understand one-to-one connection, to not just understand one-to-one intimate, close sexual relationships. Your soul wants you to understand how it feels to really connect with everyone, everything, how to feel what everybody feels, how to understand archetypes, how to understand the pain and the suffering of all living beings. And one of the best ways to do that, one of the best lessons for this Pluto placement and what your soul is really asking you to do, is to find a spiritual, metaphysical system to align yourself with that gives you faith. Because through faith, it's only through faith, the belief that you can do it, that you can actually do it. And that's very hard for Pluto in the 12th house. You know, if you have like Pluto in any of the other houses from 1 to 11, some astrologers will consider that you are here in this life and you still have other future reincarnations to go through, because you're still moving through the 12 houses in astrology. But when Pluto is in the 12th house, especially if it's really close to the ascendant, you are even closer to the source, because it is considered that there is no other reincarnation. You are in your last life. You are the oldest of old souls, and this is the last reincarnation for you, and therefore, what can you do after this? You have to connect to the source now. So Jeff Green gives a really good metaphor for how to understand this Pluto placement, and he calls it standing on the precipice or on a cliff. And when you're on a cliff, right, behind you is your past, is your habits, is everything that is known to you, everything that's familiar to you. In front of you, in the abyss, in this, in the limbo in front of you, where it's really dark and you don't know what's there, that is the source. Nobody knows what it is really like to connect with the source. There may be some people out there who, you know, have come back from like near-death experiences, and maybe they claim that. But yes, to really experience that and to share that kind of an experience with another person is probably really rare and may not really exist. And so it's one of the biggest unknowns for all of us. And so when you have this Pluto placement and you're standing on the precipice of that cliff, there's going to be a lot of resistance to jumping into the abyss, into the unknown, and to connect with the source. And that is when the issues of Pluto in the 12th house can come up. Unconsciously, what a Pluto in the 12th house person, so you, if you're watching this, might do when you are resisting the jump into the abyss is that you may begin to control certain things in your life so that it gives you identity. Because the unknown requires you to merge with everything, and there is no you, there is nothing, right? There is nothing there, and that's scary. So some examples of controlling your life may be in terms of, you know, a career where you are very obsessive over and you identified so much with it. It is you, you know, this is who you are. It could be a relationship that you identify so deeply with. This relationship, you know, you poured everything into it. This is who you are. This kind of a doing of this Pluto placement is, you know, you're finding something for the ego to identify with. The ego needs an identity, and it needs to be identified with something. And we all have parts of us that we have to feed the ego. That's normal, right? To live in this material world. But for this pocket of your life, this 12th house Pluto is asking you to surrender. It's asking you to be transformed when it comes to your soul by not having an ego. But there is still a knowing. You have this Pluto placement inside of you that you will eventually have to evolve, and you will have to surrender, and you can't control forever, and you will have to connect with the source. And so there's like two conflicting parts of your unconscious that are fighting with each other. That's what's going on inside. And the thing about holding on to something very strongly is that the irony of that is that there's going to be more fears of having that thing be taken away. And that's what can happen with this Pluto placements. There's a lot of fear of things being taken away from you, people being taken away, relationships, jobs, careers, all these things that you held so strongly to identify with. And you probably also have an inner sense, an inner feeling that although you are doing this, like you're identifying with something in the world, you know inside of you that ultimately it's not you. It's not you. You are not the things that you identify with. We all are not that. We are the no thing. We are nothing. We are nothing. So what can happen with this Pluto placement then? When you over-identify with certain things, whether that is going to be a dream of a career, you know, or a relationship, there's going to be a bit of an illusion that comes up when it comes to making these fantasies and these dreams real in your life. So the thing is that I've observed, you know, people in my life that have Pluto in the 12th house, and an example of this is you have a dream, and let's say the dream is to get married at 30 years old and to have a child at 33 years old. So you're going to be kind of like obsessive and compulsive and controlling, and there can be tactics that you may employ to get that. But let's say you do get this, right? And you feel like, wow, I've made my dream a reality. I've made this, you know, fantasy, which it's actually not a fantasy, because a fantasy can never be real. Like Tinkerbell is a fantasy, and this is not a fantasy. But if you have Pluto in the 12th house, it can feel so overwhelming like it is a fantasy, and then it can make you feel really good, really successful when you can make a fantasy real. When it wasn't really a fantasy in the first place, it was just a dream that you have put a lot of effort into practically to make it come true. That's the first illusion. And another illusion is that you may have made this, just call it a dream, you may have made this dream come true, but like I said, with Pluto in this house, you know that your evolution is here to connect with the source. It is not to identify with this dream. So although you could make it come true, there's gonna be a feeling of something is missing inside of you. Something is not quite right. Something is off. And that's the second illusion that can come up. Another consequence of trying to control your life, right, is that it may cause you to look at the world through rose-colored glasses. This is what Jeff Green says in his book. It may make you feel like everything is okay in this life, nothing is wrong. So this means that there may be, you know, people who are kind of, let's say, taking advantage of you or abusing you in life, and you may feel like, well, they're not, everything is fine in life. Or you could be the one to do these particular behaviors as well, and you may feel like, I'm not doing that, everything is fine in my relationship and in my life, because of the need to attach to this world. If something was to go wrong in this material world, that could really shatter the ego identification with the material world. So there's going to be a need to really control that. But ultimately, if you're looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, the truth or reality will eventually reveal itself, and there can be so much disappointment, so much shock that comes from that, and therefore there can be chaos that exists in your unconscious mind when the shock happens. So these particular, so far I've been talking about the resistance, right? So ultimately, when you are doing these resisting actions, you're ultimately stuck in the past. So you're standing at the precipice of the cliff, but now you're reverting back to the past. That's what you're ultimately doing. You're kind of pulling yourself every minute back into your past habits, past behaviors, and everything else that you were so used and familiar to. And I want to go a little bit deeper into some of the reasons why Pluto in the 12th house may resist this particular jump into the abyss. It is because of denial. So in a previous, earlier life, or in a past life, if you believe in that, if you have Pluto in the 12th house, you may have been born into a particular, family or society where there was a very strong need to behave in accordance with the right conduct. So it could be like a religious household if other things in the chart is kind of pointing in that direction, or it can just be a very traditional type of a family, or it can have been a past life, or something was going on where there was a lot of judgments that was being thrown around when it came to what's right and what's wrong. And so when you have this Pluto placement, and I have experienced people with Pluto in the 12th house, that they really feel like to have faith, to believe in a spiritual system, and to believe in a metaphysical system of some sort, and to have faith in these systems, it is wrong. Some people with Pluto in the 12th house really feel like this is wrong. And I'm not saying that these people haven't changed over the course of time, because they definitely can change. But in the stuck patterns, in the denial of phase of this Pluto placement, there is going to be a feeling like it is wrong. And when you are denying that, it makes it harder for you to connect with the source, with the unknown. And you may find that in your life, there may be judgments that you have towards yourself, and judgments that you may have towards other people when you feel like people are not aligning with your particular correct code of conduct. And your code of conduct may be very strict to the point where you may not even be able to match up to that. You may not even be able to tick the boxes for these particular codes of conduct. You may, this is kind of pretty much like a shadow vibration of this placement. You may, let's say, call somebody out on let's say a manipulative behavior. Maybe so your friend manipulating, having some kind of manipulative behaviors on her boyfriend, for example. You may call her out. But are you also doing that in your own relationship? So this is something that, because your standards are way too high, and you may call your friend out for that particular manipulative behavior when your friend is not doing it, and maybe you are doing something in your life where it's not manipulative, but then you, because your standards are way too high and they may not be realistic, they may be a fantasy, because it's coming from the fears of the past that we talked about, that it twists the perception. Do you see what I mean? It twists the perception, and it can cause a disturbance in your own mind. And you may get to a period when you're kind of evolving and you're trying to transform of of guilt. Wow, why did I judge this person? Why did I judge myself? Why have I been doing this? And then it may spiral down into self-victimization. I'm behaving this way because other people have raised me this way, because my parents were like this, because I've experienced this in my life. That's why I'm becoming like this. You have control over your own life. The right kind of control, of course. And therefore, you may spiral into, I will judge nothing. And that is also dangerous. So there's good judgment. So I feel like with this Pluto placement, exercising good judgment is something that's going to really help you in the transformation process. Good judgment can be achieved when you're able to judge. We need to exercise some judgments, right, in life. It is important. When you're able to judge other people based on their good intentions and good efforts, that is how you know whether you should be exercising particular judgments on people or not. We can, for example, you can see, let's say you see somebody who is behaving a little bit manipulatively, right? Does that person know that they're doing it? If they know that they're doing it and they're still doing it, if they know that they're doing it and they are resisting changing, there's something to think about there. But if that person is doing it and they're not aware that they're doing it, of course, you cannot, just let them go along with it. But at the same time, you don't have to judge it, because maybe that person needs to become aware. You need to stop the behavior, right? The behavior should be stopped, but doesn't mean that you should pass excessive judgments over it. Hope it's kind of making sense. So, if you are participating in these cycles of denial, of resistance, over and over and over again, it will cause more conflicts inside of you internally. And this can result in having a lot of nightmares, not being able to sleep properly, very disturbing dreams. It can lead to sleepwalking. It can lead to some psychological disturbances. It can lead to you needing to really exhaust yourself to a point of unhealthiness before you can sleep, because the 12th house does rule dreams and sleep. And I feel that when these cycles are repeated over the course of your life, now you begin to really question faith, and you may finally begin to allow yourself to be open to certain spiritual, metaphysical systems and not judge that. And know that, when you are in alignment with, for example, you're looking at your natal chart, it can give you this sense of faith, because you know why something is happening. There's free will. There's free will. Your natal chart is a point where you can have free will, because you know where certain behaviors are coming from in your life. Therefore, you can change that. You know when certain things may happen in your life, and you can work to change that, whether you can or not. That is okay. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're working to change it, and you trust in something like this. And even though things don't work out, you know that there's going to be something that it's going to be okay, and that there's a bigger plan for you. Maybe you don't succeed in a particular career the way that you had hoped because there's a bigger plan for you. Maybe you didn't manage to buy that house that you wanted to buy because maybe you're supposed to buy another house that you're going to love so much more. You don't know. And this requires faith. When you can do that, sorry guys, I had something in my throat, so I had to drink some water. But when you can do that, you will be able to experience what is called divine guidance or divine communion, as Jeff Green says in his book. That you are not alone. You are not alone in this life and in your journey. That there is that we are a pillowcase that's been weaved together. Everything is connected, and there's a reason why every single weave is where it is, and the divine, the energies that permeates when you radiate, positive, trust, faithful energy of abundance. The universe gives you that in return with regards to the law of attraction, and so you're going to be put and weaved into the right place of the quilt of the fabric of the universe. And that is when you can reach a state of enlightenment, to be able to understand this, to be able to go through these particular sufferings in your life. You finally reach enlightenment because you can understand, you can feel the energies of everything around you. You can feel the patterns of things that are falling into place, the synchronicities that are going on around you. You understand the nature of being and of existence, that we are the no thing, that we are the nothing, ultimately. We just are nothing. At the end of the day, this body has been borrowed for this life. It will eventually be gone. We have to give it away, and then we're left with the soul. We're left with the nothing. But there's so much in that nothing, and we're all coming from the same nothingness. We're all coming from the same nothingness. You can experience the most intense, third eye opening experiences, higher, altered states of consciousness with this Pluto placement. You can be a psychic, you can be a medium. You're going to be somebody who is a master of non-action, meaning that you don't have to seek to do, to control, simply in the not doing much, but feeling good, feeling abundant inside. You draw all the right things into your life at the right time. You will finally get to be free from cultural or societal identification that you were trying to do in the first place, but all you had to do was be. You become a real light for other people, to be able to guide them on their journey, if they would like to connect with the source just the way that you have, if they would like to understand existence, if they would like to have peace, if they would like to be elevated from suffering and have peace, they can come to you. So that's my interpretation of Pluto in the 12th house. If you have this, comment below, let us know what your experiences have been. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. And yes, I do birth charts, synastry, relationship readings. All the information is on my website. Do check that out. And yes, I'll see you soon, beautiful souls. Bye!